The main topic will be how to accelerate the transition, and to do so, thanks for that. So, as I was saying, that's a bit quick update about the organization. So, the main topic is how to accelerate the transition. To do so, we have the chance today to have 14 speakers from 40 countries who will give us their point of view about what's going on in their own country. We'll have set 3 roundtables with last like 20 minutes each table. And the first table, so this table will talk about building regulation. We have after that a second table, or we'll talk about sustainable procurement and sustainable finance. And the last one will be on raw material, waste, and circular economy. So each table, it's around 20 minutes. I count on the speaker to not go after that. So it will be like 5 minutes for each. I will be the timekeeper to do so, to respect the time. So maybe we can start in a few minutes about regulation. But first, for the introduction, we're still waiting for our main speaker to do the entrance of the conference. Sorry for that. So just in time before the introduction of the conference, maybe I can ask to our speaker to present themselves, and we start after that. So Luis Pedro from Portugal, can you tell us a little bit who you are? Yep.
Yeah, it's working. I'm from Portugal. I'm an architect. I'm also, well, I have an agency working from 2000, and I'm also a teacher in the university, in Faculty of Oporto, Architecture University, and I'm doing that since the year 2000 also. So I'm not specialized on laws, but we work a lot with that in research too.
Perfect, thanks, Luis Pedro. Dieudonné, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm from Cameroon. My name is Dieudonné Ekuta. I'm a civil engineer. I'm a representative of National Civil Engineers of Cameroon for Littoral. And behind that, I manage a company who is specialized in materials and structural engineering in Douala.
Thank you, Dieudonné, to be here. Ibtissem, please, from Tunisia.
Thank you. I'm Ibtissem Boadai from Tunisia. I'm engineer, civil engineer. I'm executive manager, Tunisian focal point at Global ABC, and VP of Tunisia Green Building Council, a new member of our GBC. I'm a trainer in entrepreneurship, green economy, blue economy.
Thank you, Ibtissem. Laura from Germany.
Hello, bonjour. My name is Laura Fogaraci-Ludloff. I'm an Austrian architect, and together with my partner Jens Ludloff, we run Ludloff Architekten in Berlin, Germany. The focus of our work is on sustainable buildings for public clients. And since 2019, I have been a member of the board of the BDA Berlin, Bund Deutsche Architektinnen and Architekten, a German architects association. And in this context, I'm also active on a professional level for building culture, building in climate change, and building heritage of the younger modernism.
Yeah. No, please just continue. I'm very sorry for being late. I was sent to another pavilion, and as you realized, the bâtiment is quite large. And so I've been running to join you. Should I present myself, or just...
Yeah, definitely. We just introduced ourselves, so we haven't started yet.
Okay, I'm very sorry for being stopped you in the middle of the sentence. Were you finished? Okay, great. Well, I'm Marjolaine Meunier-Millefert. I'm president of the Alliance HQE GBC. And I'm also an MP here in France, and I'm Vice President of the Commission for Sustainable Development at the French National Assembly. So I'm really happy to be here with you today. I was supposed to be opening the round tables, which is a bit awkward for me talking after you. But what I wanted to say is that the Alliance HQEGBC was very proud actually to be a partner of this excellent initiative that was the Low Carbon Tour. And this conference is actually the final step, right, of this tour. And that tour aimed at really underlying the best practices from various countries. I'm a little bit out of breath, as you can see. Indeed, although global changes affect us all, although decarbonation is something that we are all engaging in very ardently, we each have our own experience of it. And I think it is very dependent from where we are from and from the environment, social or work-wise, or also in terms of innovation that we actually experience in our countries. And I think that we can all agree on the fact that none of us has the full solution, actually. And each of us has a fragment of it. And by sharing it, by putting it together, by adding the little bit of knowledge that we can gain on those subjects, we can actually make a difference. And I think that's why we're here. And this is why the HQEGBC Alliance was very, very happy and proud to be here to hear you all about. So now I've talked enough, and I'll give the floor back to you. And thank you very much, Stephanie, for all the work you did and for hosting this this conference and for the work you've done so far. Excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So may we start the first table discussion. Let's start about the first table. We'll talk about building regulation. As I mentioned before, nowadays building regulation is one of the most effective way to mandate a low carbon trajectory, also for new building, but also for renovation. So one of the key parts to tackle carbon emission is to, and in the built environments, is to have an update of this regulation. So to do so, I will ask our speaker to give us their opinion about what's going on in their own country. So may I start with you, Laura, in Germany. You are like working, Germany is a federal state. So how does the building regulation works in Germany first? And can you give us, from your point of view, what are the main measures and the main blocking point to achieve the goal? Because you now have a goal to achieve carbon neutral by 2045. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, building legislation in Germany is a matter of the federal states, Bundesländer. And all federal states have already changed their building regulations to promote and facilitate timber construction, which is one main thing to reduce carbon exposure. So the Conference of the Building Ministers of the 16 federal states is responsible for the model building regulation, and the task of them is to standardize the building regulations of the states. And that's the base for the legislation in the federal states. And there's a new model wood construction guideline, Holzbau Musterbau-Richtlinie. It's intended to regulate the building with wood in the states for higher buildings. But the current amendment in its rough version is counterproductive because it's cutting already possible solutions in timber constructions in some of the states, because for some states it's a good thing to have regulations. For the other ones, it's a thing that most of those wood and wood hybrid buildings that have been built in the last years are a result of a research practice, and the buildings could not have been realized if now the building regulations are stepping back again. But sure, that's not the only thing about it. we need also further measures. We need to have a CO2 pricing. We need the consideration of graue Energie, embodied energy, which until now is really difficult to realize in this state. So we have some demands on politics, also from the Bund Deutscher Architekten, Haus der Erde, Planet Home, who has list some measures for a climate neutral building to reach the goal.
Thanks, Laura, for that. I have a last question. I love asking this question because that pop up a lot of good answer. If I will give you right now a magic stick to have one wish to transform the building construction in Germany, what will be this wish?
Oh, I'm really precise on that because I think orientation towards common good and ecological footprint should be a part of the building regulation system.
Thank you, Laura, for that answer. Ibtissam, for almost now 2 decades now, Tunisia already have some thermal regulation and energy labeling system. But what about raw material? Are you still developing bioclimatic architecture and any incentive to develop the use of bio-based material?
Yes, Tunisia has a few raw materials like salt, marble, gyps. About the gyps, Tunisia has the Tunisia is the most largest gyps deposit in the world. Maybe we are in the first position. So we try to build around this material ecosystem to adapt it to emerge an ecosystem for biosourced material, new materials, and entrepreneurship too. So with the gypsum, we try to build around ecosystem.
Just
Yeah.
Sorry
you.
about
Okay.
that. And what about bio-based material?
Bio-based material, I talk for example of the gyps and other materials too, but only for stage POC, proof of concept only. Voila, not a large scale. But about your other question about incentive, by scaling the stage to market transformation, we have financial mechanism and taxes incentive to put in to stimulate green building and low carbon and innovation too in the sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ibtissam.
Merci.
Thanks a lot for that. Luis Pedro from Portugal. Pick up. In Portugal, the first set of law was in 1987, actually, but the most effective one set of regulation in terms of environment was taken between 2002 and 2005. Is it all right? Yeah?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that, about this regulation about environment, and maybe from your point of view, what will be the next step to go further?
Yes. So yes, in fact, the first basic environment law started in 1987, but things were just in the beginning. In 2002, the government changed a lot this basic law, and things were in a total different direction. So in construction, in building area, one of the major things that happened in 2005, more or less, was the energy certification, as everywhere, I think, in European Union. But in Portugal, it had a great effect. It contributes a lot to our reduction in 20% of carbon gas emission since 2005 till 2019. So things change a lot, and we had also lots of different sectorial laws in waste from building, also in impact of big projects were taking place in sensitive areas, but also in big intervention in the territory. So it had a big impact. Now we are in a transition. The climate change draw issues and also fire forests, they contribute a lot to global sensitivity about our needs to change as everywhere. But at the same time, government and things made with this contribution of European Union also are changing. In last year, December, it was approved a new basic law of climate, and with our goal is working on. We are working on this goal in 2030. Have a great reduction, and the long term in 2050 neutrality, complete neutrality. We have solar conditions, we have also hydric conditions, and we have wind because we have Atlantic coast, so it brings lots of contributions. But you see, education, media, also government, they are not enough. I think when we work with market, we saw lots of inertia taking place because we have not technology enough, and in the market we don't have the technical approach with good prices that can be the real transformation about things we can propose. Designers are not sufficient to make this transformation. Mindset of people is also something that it's very important. We speak a lot. We speak a lot about transformation, but our life it's still very connected with wrong ways of being sustainable.
Stop picking and try to act now.
Yeah. Renovation in building sector is very important. We have ancient cities that can be transformed without big costs of constructing everything by new projects, and we must also consider that common sense. It's very important to have good measures for
Basic.
being durable, comme on dit en français.
Sustainable.
Or long term.
Long term.
Yeah. We have good materials from ancient times. I was taking a picture of Notre Dame principles, and outside we have a big, strong metallic with LEDs working on sunshine. It's not the case. It's really the opposite we should have.
Thanks, Luis Pedro, for that. Dieudonné, last but not least.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit? You told me recently that there are new environmental requirements that you have to have before the submission of a permit. Can you tell us more about that? And maybe are there already some action or maybe some reflection in local authorities to promote or even to force builder with some regulation?
Yeah, know that Cameroon is a developing country with ambitious to be emerged in 235. And then recently measure was taken by the Prime Minister to regulate the use of some materials. And looking to the local council, now in Cameroon, when you want to have a permit building, we impose you on the certificate of environmental conformity when you require that your building is in conformity with environment. And then this permit is delivered by the Minister of Environmental, Nature, Protection and Sustainable Development. And then some actions are taken in the basis, in the local council. Note that now Cameroon is subsidized into the government by into a decentralized territorial communities. And now our action is already goes on local council. With this different action, a lot of laws are being voted by the National Assembly with a various application. But you know that now the government encourage the use of local materials and innovative materials. And the country is not very big, but we have a various of climate between different regions. And we have now many universities. And on this university, on the laboratory of this university, we have research who is going on to use these local materials adapted of our use. And then to accelerate this research, the government encourage the relation between university and enterprises to be sure that the development and the use of this material with innovative material will be profitable to the population.
For the training, I say that it's a big issue in Europe about training, about developing new skill, and I think that we have.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the end of the first table. Maybe we have time for one or two questions in the audience. Do you have any question in the audience? Yeah. Oh, I'll give you. Thanks for that.
Je peux poser ma question en français?
Yeah, please. We'll
Okay.
translate.
Bonjour à tous, je suis Espérance Chancel Kengebi Mangou, architecte de la République du Congo. Je travaille au ministère de la Construction, de l'Urbanisme et de l'Habitat. Je voulais intervenir par rapport à Monsieur Dieudonné Écouta, pardon, merci. Vous avez parlé tout à l'heure des permis de construire que vous délivrez sous base d'une autorisation, une étude environnementale en fait. Est-ce que c'est catégorisé par type de projet ou même une construction simple villa? Parce que chez moi, par exemple, en République du Congo, c'est selon le type de projet, selon l'envergure du projet et l'impact qu'il peut avoir dans son environnement, s'il est vraiment assez important. C'est-à-dire des projets de type villa, par exemple, certains projets d'habitation, ceux-là, on n'exige pas forcément l'étude d'impact environnemental qui accompagne le dossier. Et à ce moment-là, justement, nous travaillons avec le ministère de l'Environnement qui délivre ça, mais sous recommandation du ministère de la Construction, après étude et analyse du dossier soumis à la demande du permis de construire. Merci.
Okay, thank you for your question. I will reply in French because in Cameroon we are bilingual. Eh bien, effectivement, au Cameroun, tout récemment, l'État, à travers un décret du Premier ministre, a institué la délivrance de permis de construire par des études environnementales et l'étude environnementale, ça ne suffit pas. Et l'établissement d'un certificat de conformité de cette étude environnementale délivrée par le ministère de l'Environnement. Cela dépend justement du type de construction que vous voulez ériger. Mais il faut savoir que ce n'est pas quelque chose qui est fait comme une simple formalité. En fait, le même décret institue un comité pour pouvoir siéger, même si vous avez une simple villa à construire. comme on appelle vulgairement un pied à terre. Alors là-dedans, dans ce comité-là, il y a plusieurs branches de métiers. Moi, je suis représentant pour l'Ordre national des ingénieurs pour le littoral. Je siège justement à un de ces comités, mais il y a des urbanistes, il y a des architectes, il y a justement des environnementalistes. On vous impose, même sans avoir fait une étude environnementale, d'avoir dans votre concession un jardin, un parking, pour rendre l'environnement agréable et permettre au moins la vie agréable dans votre zone. Cela évite d'avoir des constructions ou des zones où on a des constructions touffues et qui vont rendre la vie difficile. Parce que vous ne construisez pas seulement pour vous construisez aussi pour rendre la vie des autres agréable. Et ça, c'est imposé. Et vous avez un coefficient d'utilisation de sol que vous devez respecter. Et le reste, maintenant, c'est pour les jardins, c'est pour le parking, c'est pour autre chose.
Thank you for that. I won't have another time. I'm sorry, the time is up for the first table, so maybe you can ask after the conference to the speaker if you have any more questions. I thank you all for that, for your point of view. Thank you very much for your time and for the share that you have. And I will call straight away the second table, Alberto from Italy, Nabil from Morocco, Sebastian from Belgium, and Craig from Netherlands. Thank you, all of you, to be here and to share also your knowledge about the second topic of this conference, which is sustainable finance and procurement. We know that finance is also a key pillar to accelerate the transformation and actually has a strong link with policy, but also with building regulation. We know that in Europe, with taxonomy European, we have like a new criteria that has been developed. So we know that finance and procurement, it's a powerful tool for improving the standard building stock. So to start about it, I will start with you, Nabil, from Morocco. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on in terms of finance market in Morocco? Is it green investment? Is it already attractive? So have you acknowledged some new business model about it? And can you give us some example?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks, Batimat, for the invitation. I am Nabil Jadeira. I have about 15 years of experience in international cooperation within energy and chemistry. I am the founder and the chairman of the Morocco Future Energy Leader, which I have founded in partnership with the World Energy Council. Coming back to your question, is finance attractive in the Morocco market?
Oh, the green one.
Yeah, I would say definitely yes. And finance is only the consequence of the context in Morocco. In Morocco, we are a country under development with a GDP growth about 5%, 6% yearly. So, of course, when you need money in Morocco, you find it. Also, the finance sector in Morocco is very mature, very attractive. You have Moroccan banks well implanted through Africa. We have a great South-South cooperation. So we benefit in Morocco a very good finance ecosystem. Your second question about the attractivity of green investment, I would say definitely yes. The first reason is the geographical position of Morocco. It is the door of Africa for Europe. You have very huge coast in the Mediterranean side and the Atlantic side. You have an irradiance which is extremely high, between 1,500 hours to 2,300 hours of sun yearly. And and you have also a great potential, which is exploited in wind farm, onshore and offshore, with great load factors. So the second reason is also the human capital. In Morocco, you have well-educated people that have done the school in Europe, but also in Morocco we have a great university ecosystem with green trainings degree, and also we have great policies. We have regulation that encourage green investment. In 2009, we had in Morocco the target to reach 42% of renewable in the energy mix, and we have almost maybe next year we will reach this target, and the new target for 2030 is 52%. Also, we have grants, so I will mention two of them. You have the grant from the state, which is Tatouer Croissance Verte in French, which can reach for SMEs about 30% of the capex for investment on decarbonation. The second one is a grant from the European Bank of Development that can, for private companies that take a loan, reach almost 10% of the capex. So definitely, yes, you have the resource, natural resource, you have human capital, you have policies, and you have also grants. So what do you want more of that to develop renewable energy in Morocco?
And what would be the next step? I like asking that question. If I give you the famous magic stick and you have a wish to go further, what will be it?
The next step, if I have a magic stick, is we'll say to the private companies, go. You have all the tool. It's profitable. So invest on green project.
That's perfect. Thanks a lot, Nabil, for that. I will ask after that to Sebastian from Belgium. From your point of view, with the generative design, it's not necessarily more expensive to build like a passive house than a traditional house. You have a good example to share, I think so?
Yes, thank you. Before introducing that, one of these examples is, I have to go briefly where we're coming from. So we're architects. We're a firm. We are working in Brussels, but we have projects in France. We have an office in Lisbon. We have an office in New York too. One of the main things is that 100% every single building we are doing in retrofit, new builds, on the district scale, master planning, they're all but passive house. And that happened because in our country, in Brussels, 7 years ago, passive house became the law. So it's not that we are against or we like it or not, it's the law. And that happens because one of these reasons, there are a few of them, but one of them is because very quickly, 15 years ago, we achieved passive house building. It's building, if your apartment is a passive house, your bill for heating is even not a coffee a month. It's maybe €3 a month. This is what we're talking about. But what happened 15 years ago is we did some of these projects at the same cost and sometimes cheaper than business as usual. So we discovered that in some conditions, it was possible to do these green buildings with directly negative extra cost. Not in 10 years, in 5 years, negative extra cost. And these buildings are fully glass, hyper sexy, high design, so we don't have to suffer. What happens in the meantime is with that law that has been voted in Europe that all we have to achieve CO2 neutral by 2050. Even here, every 27 of us signed this. It's going to be difficult because for Paris, it means like you have to retrofit 25 houses per hour in passive house. We are very far from that, sorry. But in the meantime, what we discovered, its story did not stop there. When you mention regenerative design, is that with some developers, and we are doing that, for example, for a project here in Lille with Bouygues, we apply for a project in Covea in Boulogne-Billancourt, but we did the same in Morocco. We did the Belgian embassy. It's a self-sufficient, off-grid, unplugged embassy. It's the first in the world. so they don't pay nothing. It's in Rabat. But we discover with these developers and so on that a passive house, so to be close to zero energy, is one tiny step or a huge step. We can go where more beyond. So today the idea is to don't try to limit your impact on the environment, but to regenerate it, to go that far. If you don't do development, it's worse for the climate. Can we go that far? One of the huge projects we are doing, actually, it's a project with a Luxembourg developer in Arizona. It's in the US. It's 400 houses. They're going to be in the market at the cost than the same stupid house nearby, but it's going to be completely off-grid, not only in energy, self-sufficient in energy, but also in water. And believe me, if you can do it in Arizona, we have 55 degrees. Everywhere else, like here, in Paris, in Brussels, all Europe, it's peanuts. It should be just normal. This is what we aim for, is now just go for it, because we are that far in emergency.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Just do it. Don't ask.
I will ask you, Alberto, next. In Italy, you told me that there is a really interesting tax incentive, actually, to stimulate the market of renovation. Can you tell us more about this tax incentive and maybe have some feedback? Is it effective? Is it working?
Yes, in Italy we have several tax incentives. We begin from 50% or maybe from 36%, 50%, 60%, 65%, 70, 75, 80, 85, and at the top 110%. So you will reach a tax incentive 10% more than you spend than you pay when you go to a deep renovation of your building. And maybe there are too much, it's too complex, it's very difficult to choose which tax incentive you must choose for your building. But I think that this is a way to speed up energy renovation in building. It's quite expensive because each month our country pays something like 3 billion euros.
That's
From 3 to 5 billion euros a month. It's not
Quite a lot of money.
Yes.
But is
you
it
don't
working?
you don't have to expect to get cash. It's a tax incentive, and with this tax incentive we will gain the incentive in 4 years or in 10 years, and it depends on the kind of improvement you make. And if you get, maybe you have to make an energy renovation, a deep renovation
deep one.
of your house, and you pay 200,000 euros. So you will get 50,000 euros a year of tax incentive. And you must be quite rich to use this incentive. And if you don't use, you lose this incentive. So you can sell it to a company, or you can sell it to a bank who will pay you 80% of what you sell.
So it is expensive, of course, but is it working?
I think it is working, but maybe it could work better, because when you say, I will give you 110%, so you don't say, you don't choose a cheaper material or a window or insulation, and you don't have to choose, because if you pay 100, you will get 110. If you pay 50, you will reach 55, and this is not good. On the other hand, this is very good to fight energy poverty, because otherwise you will reach a regeneration, a deep renovation only of rich people.
And last question, you told me that if you have like this famous Majestic, so the axe will be like to simplify tax incentive because it's too complicated, there are too much difference.
Too much difference, too complicated, and you know, the problem is, I think it's time, because politics run with a different speed compared to construction. Politics thinks, or politics works with 1 year, 2 years, but if you want to have a deep renovation in Italy, maybe you have to do a project of 20 years. It's useless to have a tax incentive of 2 years. It's impossible. And I think that the right way maybe will be a tax incentive of 80%, but in 20 years, we must have more time, otherwise only few people could reach the goal.
Thank you for sharing. We saw that at the first of the table about sustainable finance, but another way is procurement. To stimulate and engage the market, public authorities with procurement can also provide like a shift from like a top-down shift. So Professor Craig Lee Martin, when I was in the Netherlands, people introduced me about the environmental performance for building. I think it's a regulation, but is one number, only one number regulation. And can you tell us a bit more about that? And regarding your specialty, can you tell us what is the best way to engage the transformation of the city? Because how environmental commitment can be translated in procurement procedure.
Yeah, okay, well, first of all, thanks for inviting me. Yes, I'm Craig from TU Delft. I'm in the chair of climate design and sustainability, and over the past few years, I've been looking at how technology can be bridged with societal challenges in a design sense, but also in a numbers sense as well, in terms of carbon and the numbers you talk about there. In terms of procurement or ideas being taken forward from government to municipality level downwards, yes, I guess you could start that discussion from the Dutch climate agreement that was made in 2019, and part of that agreement was a various requirements for various sectors, including the building industry. Because another thing with the Netherlands, if there's any Dutch people in the audience, is they are behind by 1 million homes. 1 to 1.5 actually.
For each year.
Yeah, so it's like a big thing, and currently I think we've only managed to get 10,000, and we have to do 200,000 per year to meet that target. But back on the number you speak of, that was the environmental performance of buildings number. There's another word for it in Dutch, which sounds a lot more poetic than that.
Quite difficult, I can't pronounce it.
Yes, I won't try and do that actually, because I'm not actually Dutch, as you can tell. But that number, it's a number, but it's based on the impact of materials. So in terms of their shadow, their financial shadow. In other words, you pick a material, but it has a financial shadow in terms of compensation or mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions or carbon emissions. So in Holland, that number is well, for the last few years has been 1. Yeah, that number comes from various different requirements, but in a sense, it's a number that's about the gross floor area of a building, its lifespan, and various other factors. But the Netherlands is now moving to tighten that number. So now, over 2 years ago, they tightened it for new construction to 0.8. And the idea, part of the climate agreement, is to get that number down to 0.5. So
quite ambitious.
Yeah, so that's a big part of the procurement process for the municipalities, because they have to regulate that, have to make sure that number gets met. Architects, designers, all need to figure out that number, and of course it's mathematical, but it becomes circular architecture, circular systems, which is the next table, of course. So I won't go too much into that. But from my specialism, it's not all about the numbers. I think you know, over the past few years, I've run a project called the Citizen Roadshow, and where we go into the heart of communities and ask them what they want. I think we've got to realise that communities sometimes live on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis. When they wake up in the morning, they don't think about carbon, they don't think about circularity, they think about the kids going to school, they think about, can they pay the bill, they think about, you know, is it safe to work, for their kids to play in the street, and things like that. So I'm really interested in how sustainability, innovation, and the procurement process can meet sustainability, but also do it in a happier, healthier way that's been accepted by communities, perhaps more struggling communities than the more affluent ones. And that's where another thing where the procurement process comes in, because the Dutch now, in their agreement, talk about their terminology now is not just about numbers, it's about district-orientated procurement. It's about acceptance of communities for ideas in interventions, buildings. It talks about participation, getting people who aren't experts, like on the stage here, interested, passionate about that, but doing it in a way that isn't about sustainability per se, but it's about lifestyle and enjoyment and future and opportunity. So, you know, communication's a big part of that procurement process in the Netherlands with that agreement.
Thank you for that, Professor. I think that's the end of the table 2. I think that we have time for maybe one question. Is there any question in the audience? No question at all? So we'll say, we have a question there.
I would like my friend and associate Sebastian speak a little bit more about regen in the sense of biomass and maybe merging Batimat with more of the biomass question and healing ecosystems. And it also touches on what the professor said, you know, how do we change the definition of sustainability from a top-down, only for the rich and elites and the fortunate, but to a bottom-up definition where everyone can participate in the sustainability project.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, well, it can be hours of answer. One of them is, well, the thing is, today the situation is so far so bad. So one of the, it can be one thing of war and situation of crisis we have, which is a repetitive crisis, is that it accelerates for once. Well, we talk about more than 20 years. So we knew we were arriving at the end of resources of steel, aluminium, copper, sand for concrete. So it's almost over, all of that. It was not supposed to be that fast. So the worst thing is to have known that back in the days. One of the things that we see today is that with that acceleration, I think no one is going to be against the fact that we have to go to try to regenerate the environment, not only just make some tiny measure to limit the impact. We have to go very much beyond. We know that with the sea level rise, a lot of people are not going to be there anymore. So the situation is so harsh and even worse than it is. So it's not that we can continue to discuss what should be done and so on. You really have to, as we say, we have to target the stars to reach the top of the trees. This is where we are now so far. And that includes everyone, include the one who cannot afford that. For example, we did the Belgian embassy in Kinshasa. It's in Congo. It's in tropical zone. It's a passive house embassy. It's the only one in Africa. It has been done for 50% of the cost of a classic embassy. We are nearby the France embassy and the US embassy. So if it's possible to do it there in Kinshasa at 50% of the cost, why can't everyone do it? You see, there's no black magic or crazy things. And one of the last things is also that participation is that one of the way it was possible to do it is instead of coming the way like we pretend we know everything, it's the contrary. We just bring some way of doing, and actually it's working with locals that helps to achieve that. So this is also that we cannot do that together. It's not the architect together, it's not the builder, it's not the designer or the lawmaker. It has to be done all together. And the circularity to work with local, that's going to help. It's one way of try to save as much as we can, because this is where we are. And it doesn't have to be suffering. It's not that what we call cliché, the neo-Protestant way. You don't have to suffer to be sustainable, or the contrary. This is what we discover. It's one possible lighthouse of hope, I would say, in this mess.
Thank you, Sebastian. And it's time to thank you all for your participation and for your feedback and to share with the audience. So thank you very much for all your participation. It's time for... It's time for me to introduce you the last table. We'll talk about raw material, waste and circular economy. To do so, I'll introduce all the speakers. Thank you, all of you. We still need, miss one chair about it. Sorry about that. Yep. Come on. Fine. One. Sorry, this one. Thank you for that. Is it? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Sorry for that. To do so, we have Adel from Algeria, Daniel from Spain, Diogo from Turkey, Keshen from UK, and Huguette from Ivory Coast. Thank you all to be with us today and share your vision. We'll start straight away. Nowadays, we know that building sector is responsible for a third of Europe waste and half of the extracting material. So it's clear for us that we have to do stuff differently. To do so and to tackle our carbon footprint emission, policy needs to encourage even more force builders for greater circularity and increase resource efficiency. So we'll share first with this table with you, Keshen, from UK. Thank you to be here. As an architect, how do you say that this need for change is perceived in your country and in your profession? People are already aware that we have to do stuff differently, that we have to maybe work more about building existing building and not try to also demolish and build a lot of new building. Can you tell us how can we go and stimulate this market in this direction?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassian Castle from Cassian Castle Architects. So just talking about the circular economy, I mean, it's obviously a very crucial issue, not just about material efficiency and waste avoidance, and there are lots of improvements that can be made in the construction process, of course. But speaking as an architect, there are certain design decisions early on that are interesting to focus on. Certainly, my interest, and that one of the key ones is about avoiding demolition of old buildings and finding ways to work with them because of the embodied carbon that they hold. In the UK, it's quite a hot topic in the architecture press at the moment. The Architects Journal running a campaign which they call retrofit. And I think that there are really two ways, there are just generally speaking, there are as you hinted at, there are two ways to bring about change. One is to force people to do it with regulation, and the other one is to make it profitable. I was interested to hear the Italian delegate talking about the tax incentives in Italy, because in the UK it's the opposite. There's a sales tax on refurb, which isn't on new build. So it's actually people are encouraged to demolish, which is completely the wrong way round. So I think I get the feeling from listening to everybody else that the UK is quite a long way behind our European partners, unfortunately. So there's quite a long way to go. There is, on the other hand, quite a lot of awareness of it. I think there's a lot of interest and a lot said, but just not that much action. But for me, there's other reasons there are other sort of design issues, you could call them, that are worth thinking about in relation to the circular economy. One of them is to do with, and this is something that's come out of my practice working with existing buildings, is what I would call the joy of retrofit, which is actually when you juxtapose old and new within a building, it can be very rewarding. It can actually enhance both the old and the new, and if done well, of course. And what you're doing is you're in that respect, you're not only saving or helping to save the planet, but you're also preserving a sense of history. So the spaces become richer by the traces of the history that's visible within them. So that's one thing. The other is is a phrase that was coined in the UK called long life, loose fit. And that's where you have, where you try to design buildings that aren't very specific, or have a kind of a flexibility about them, where you are trying to anticipate future uses so that the spaces created are sort of non-specific. They're sort of generally usable, but also anticipating the second life and the third life. So that's if you. So both of these issues we've sort of become aware of and of interesting themes in our own design work in the office. A recent project we did called Yorkton Workshops, actually, the client came to us wanting to demolish some ramshackle buildings that they bought, but we managed to talk them into demolition and refurbishment. And equally, while we were designing it, the spaces that we were trying to create were sort of non-specific. So I just wanted to emphasize those two design ideas that aren't specifically technical.
Thank you, Keishan, for your sharing. I will ask you about Turkish metric, Duygu. Can we have any link between what's going on in Europe in terms of waste and in terms of circular economy and the Turkish legislation? Sorry for that. Are there any factor, what are the drivers to go further? And my last question will be, because one way to work on circular economy is to start and to work with existing building. So how far are you in renovation in Turkey?
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Cassian. I had intended to speak about...
Yeah, it is working, but you have to, really close to your mouth.
It's working, okay. So, thank you, Stephanie. I was going to stress the same issue of retrofitting, but from a different market, because I come from Turkey, where the market drivers are very different. The costs of different components of buildings are very different. Materials, craftsmanship, and imported and exported materials technology. The cost of everything is different. So when working with clients and partners from Europe, we noticed these differences in payback periods and in convincing the client. So the legislation in Turkey is pretty much the same as Europe, actually. Most of the legislation is a direct translation because we are European approximation country. So we also had the same waste directive, and we use the same waste hierarchy where prevention is the core and the first step of waste management. We also, as architects, are now talking about life cycle approaches. As Ecodenge, we're also using the life cycle analysis approach as a means of creating buildings with lower embodied carbon. So looking at all these concepts that we're importing from engineering disciplines, we see that retrofitting is clearly a better option when we can prevent the generation of waste from an existing building, and when we can also reuse and upcycle existing materials. But to convince Turkish clients to do this is more difficult because the building stock is not as efficient and as financially feasible for retrofits. So one driver here we have in Turkey is the seismic legislation. People do not retrofit their buildings for energy, but they do retrofit them for seismic safety. So we are trying to integrate energy efficiency into those retrofits. And we have been working on generating programs and guidelines for doing that for public buildings, different types of public buildings, and also recommended for residential buildings as well. And well, as I said, the barrier here is the financial feasibility, and the driver would be the possibilities that we can generate from other retrofitting requirements.
Thank you, Diogo, to share your vision. I will ask to Daniel in what's going on in Spain. What is the current situation, and what will be the next step of development from the last decade in terms of material and waste and circular economy?
Thank you. And I can say first, I am sorry because my English is not so it's not good.
That's fine.
And the most important, I demolish. I am the most contamination of the world in the industry, the construction, because approximately 40% are for me, for my industry. So in Spain now, the legislation is very low. We are remove the legislation actuality currently. And we hope in 2030, 2050, we stay in the level of Europe. Now our technology is good, but our mentality is very, very destroyer. No, is no orientate, no focus in the future. In the industry of the demolition, have the possibilities to do waste, the linear economy or the circular economy, and it's not only in Spain. I think that is in the Mediterranean area. It's possible in Portugal, in Spain, the south of France, Italy, Turkey, and Greece. The mentality is the most important. The cheap is the prices. So we must change the mentality. We must think in the future. We must think that now is improve possibilities to development, because I have three daughters, and I would like the future they will stay in this world. They must not travel to the moon, not travel to the Mars. So we are chained. 4 lines is the first is the transport. We must remove all the tracks, all the possibilities to the consumption, the fossil construction, change to electricity, to change to hydraulic. We must think in that materials have a second, a third, fourth life. Why don't it's possible remove a door or change the roof or utility the same good floor is very, very beautiful. But now we are removable approximately in 2-3 years. We are making the demolition in buildings. No, it's empty. It's no using. In medieval, in Reconquist, it's approximately 1 century is the during of the buildings. Why don't know here now? The most important for me is the waste management. We must forget the landfill. We must we must reuse the recycling or economy in the economy or in the in energy, waste to energy. It's very possible. And the last line is energy efficiencies. Where the post tax incentives to renewable the boilers, the windows, the lighter, but it's necessary penalties, big penalties to remove this big emission.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing. I will ask Adel to give us maybe a point of view with in Algeria. I will ask the question in English, but you can answer in French if you prefer. So circular economy is not like really, I would say that it's been developed for a long time in Algeria. So can you tell us what's going on in circular economy in Algeria?
Thank you, Stéphanie. C'est vrai que je vais parler en français pour mieux m'exprimer. Effectivement, la notion d'économie circulaire existe depuis très longtemps, je dirais, en Algérie. Depuis très longtemps, et je pense un peu partout aussi, hein, dans le monde. Et ça, c'est dû au fait de construire avec les matériaux locaux. Alors, si je parlerai de l'expérience algérienne, je commencerai par le passé et puis après on verra avec ce qui se passe aujourd'hui. Alors, dans le passé, nous avons des systèmes constructifs qui sont quand même simples. On utilise le matériau local. Dans le sud, c'est le taupe, donc c'est l'argile mélangée avec un liant et de l'eau, et on construit donc des murs avec, et bien sûr des bâtiments. Dans le nord, c'est un peu plus différent. On utilise la pierre, hein, du fait d'une pluviométrie plus intense. Donc du coup, c'est la pierre qui est utilisée avec un liant, et on construit donc les murs et nos bâtiments. L'ingéniosité, je dirais, dans ces concepts, c'est que si on veut reconstruire le bâtiment, s'il s'effondre et on veut le reconstruire, l'argile ou la terre, elle s'effondre sur elle-même, on la reprend et on reconstruit avec donc, le même bâtiment avec les mêmes produits. Pour les murs, pour les toitures, c'est exactement pareil. Donc, nous avons le système donc, dans le sud, c'est à base de bois, de tronches d'arbres ou de palmiers et couvertes de terre. Quand c'est usé et utilisé, on les enlève, on les réutilise pour faire du feu avec, et on reprend de nouvelles branches pour refaire les toitures. Et donc, du coup, les matériaux sont utilisés, réutilisés en permanence, que ce soit dans le sud, où il fait chaud, ou bien dans le nord, où il pleut, avec des températures avoisinantes le sud de l'Europe, de la France particulièrement. De ce fait, je dirais la détérioration de l'environnement était vraiment minime. On ne touchait pas à l'environnement naturel, et on conservait donc cette nature. Bien sûr, comme
on disait, c'était mieux avant.
Tout à fait, c'était mieux avant. Effectivement, nos aïeux protégeaient l'environnement. Contrairement donc, à ce qui se fait aujourd'hui, et c'est un peu le cas, je dirais, de tous les pays qui ont vécu soit une augmentation de la population, et ça c'est, je dirais, la spécificité du XXe siècle, où on a vu la population mondiale qui a galopé. En Algérie, c'est exactement la même chose, nous sommes concernés par le même phénomène, et ceci tout de suite après 62, donc après l'indépendance de l'Algérie, on a vu un taux de natalité important, donc du coup une augmentation de la population, et bien sûr il y a une demande par rapport au logement. Donc dès les années 70-80, on a commencé à construire donc, pour répondre à ce besoin. Cette construction s'est intensifiée dans les années 2000 et les années 2010, de par, je dirais, les rentrées en pétrole donc, en Algérie, et on a vu donc une construction de l'Algérie un peu à l'image de ce qui s'est passé en Europe dans les années 40-50, donc après la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Donc il y a eu, pas le plan Marshall, mais il y a eu des plans similaires pour construire dans un premier temps, en 2004, c'était un programme d'1 million de logements. En 2009, c'était un programme d'1,2 million et 1,6 million en 2014. Donc tout cela, c'est quoi? C'est en réalité, on a fait identique, donc à l'identique de ce qui se passe ailleurs. C'est l'industrialisation du bâtiment donc, qui est arrivée, et bien sûr c'est l'économie linéaire contrairement à l'économie circulaire. On construit avec du matériau nouveau et pour avancer vite, pour faire vite et répondre à ce besoin.
Alors,
en revanche,
comment réintégrer du coup ces anciennes pratiques dans le monde actuel?
J'arrive. En revanche, justement, l'ancien ne s'est pas, je dirais, n'a pas été délaissé. Je dirais même au contraire. Fut un temps, on achetait la tuile ancienne plus chère que la tuile toute neuve. Les choses ont changé un petit peu vers les années 2000-2010. parce qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'importations de ces produits de pays qui façonnent bien donc, la tuile. Mais en revanche, auparavant, donc on reprenait les tuiles, on reprenait le carrelage, on reprenait la faïence, on reprenait certaines portes et cadres quand ils sont en bon état, et du coup on les réutilisait dans le bâtiment. La tuile, je dirais vieille de peut-être, je ne sais pas, 50, 60, 70 ans, était cotée par rapport à la tuile qui était produite localement d'une qualité moindre, et du coup ça permettait effectivement la réutilisation de ces matériaux-là. Je dirais ce marché-là a toujours existé en Algérie. On a toujours vendu les vieux matériaux, hein, surtout quand ils sont de qualité, et on les a toujours exploités, surtout dans le secteur privé. En revanche, dans le secteur public, il y a quand même un réseau qui existe, qui, dès qu'il y a une démolition, on va détecter s'il y a des matériaux qui pourraient être utilisés dans d'autres chantiers. Et du coup, il y a des spécialistes de ces créneaux qui viennent et qui vont récupérer
un audit.
Les bons matériaux. En revanche, l'Algérie est quand même, je dirais, ce n'est pas un pays où on démolit beaucoup. Hein. On n'a pas encore atteint cette phase-là. Je pense que ça va venir bientôt. Parce que voilà, ça va venir bientôt parce que on commence quand même à avoir un tissu urbain vétuste. Toutes les villes construites avant 1830, c'est plutôt du patrimoine privé, je dirais, des propriétés privées ou des copropriétés. Donc les privés entretiennent leurs bâtiments à leur façon. En revanche, tout ce qui a été construit pendant la période coloniale aujourd'hui commence à devenir vétuste, et on commence à voir un petit peu certains bâtiments qui sont démolis et de nouveaux bâtiments qui émergent, que ce soit dans le collectif ou dans le privé. Et là, il y a je dirais, de réelles potentialités pour justement, je dirais, valoriser cette activité de réemploi, de la réutilisation des matériaux de construction. Ce qui va manquer peut-être, c'est surtout, je dirais, l'utilisation du matériau de construction lui-même. C'est-à-dire, comment, si on démolit un mur, comment va-t-on le réutiliser? C'est plutôt cela qu'il faudrait peut-être, auquel il faut trouver peut-être une solution. En revanche, tous les matériaux anciens, qui sont en bon état, sont réutilisés, revendus, réutilisés. Voilà.
Merci Adel, thank you for that.
C'est moi.
I will ask Huguette what's going on about the raw material in Ivory Coast. Can you tell us a little bit more about that in your country? And I will ask this famous question. If you had like the magic stick, what would be your wish to accelerate the transition and go further? What would be the next step?
Thank you. Okay, I'm Huguette Ruzibiza. I'm an architect and working in Ivory Coast, Abidjan. And okay, for the raw materials, it's really a bit complicated because, as Adele said, a long time ago, even in Ivory Coast, we used to use raw materials and use it in construction and have the circular economic about that. But now, so in the modern life, it's a bit complicated because to be honest, we don't really use local materials for modern building. So we're using most of the time cement brick, concrete, but Ivory Coast is really rich in terms of raw materials. We can use earth materials, we can use also wood. There's a lot of way of thinking about that, but as an architect, we can think and create projects about that, but we also need the others, like government policies, to help us think about how we can build with like a green way of building. But I cannot talking about the low carbon because it's another step also. So I can talk about green right now. For the low carbon, we need we need really an engagement of all participants, like architect, engineer, but also government, to build things. And I liked what Dieudonné from Cameroon said too, because he was talking about what they do even with university, and they created a lab to experiments like raw materials and how we can build like modern things with raw materials. So I think we need also that. In Ivory Coast, we need to have study about what kind of materials we have and what we can do with that, and doing like modern architecture and beyond that. And if I had a magic stick, I don't know.
Let's wish.
About raw materials, I will, maybe dream about. Okay, we have a good climate in Côte d'Ivoire. We can have also bamboos. A big forest of bamboos. We know that in Asia they use bamboos in construction too. They know how to improve that materials and do a lot of things. So we can do that also in Ivory Coast. We have everything, but we just need to think about it and to be to have also industries about that, so that we can have forest of bamboos and know how are the
transform after that the wood.
Exactly. So it can be a dream for me. The first one, there's a lot of, but I don't think we have time to speak about that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you all of that for sharing your vision. Thank you. We can maybe to say thank you. I think that we have time for only one question. Is there any question in the audience? Oh, yep. Thank you for that.
Je dois vraiment courir, alors I have to run, so I'm just going to ask a quick question. Some of these panels make me really worried, but I appreciate your honesty. I mean, some of you have said that the situation in your country is quite shitty in terms of carbon and reuse, and I appreciate that. What kind of spectacular demonstration project do you think will be needed, for example, in Côte d'Ivoire, to really awaken people and to this new reality and maybe spur their imagination that a new era has come in terms of raw material and local supply?
Any speaker have an answer for that? You wanna try? That's another wish.
We'll come and we'll come work for you for free to make it happen.
So what would be the waking call?
The waking call, really, I can answer right now. I don't know. There's lot of waking call, because as an architect, I used to talk with communities there, talked about environments. I co-founded an association, J'aime ma lagune, which we are focusing on environment and how we can improve life of the citizen next to the lagoon, because there's lot of issues about that. But if I have to think about a project, I think just communicate with population and explain to them how raw materials can be used in our modern life, and not used because people who don't know used to think that raw materials is like, okay, the huttes, les cases, les huttes de l'époque. Even okay, it's really complicated, but I think it's a mindset.
Definitely a mindset.
It's a mindset. So we need to communicate about that. We need to
training.
Yeah, and to have schools also about materials and helping them to know that this can be that.
I think Daniel wants to add something.
Oh, sorry. I can explain in very short. I hope in the future, I think that the future is in our floor, in the landfill. We need recurse, we need resource, we need gases. Urban waste is possible the more the biggest resource of the future, because it's approximated the 30 or the 40% our necessity of the gases of the removal of the future. It's similar in the construction. In the landfill is the future of the buildings, because now we are resourcing, we are destroying the world. Why don't use? Really, it's minery. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you all. Maybe thank you for that. I'll let Marjolaine conclude this session.
That's actually quite an impossible task, trying to sum up everything that's been said, so I'm not even going to try. Maybe I'd like to rebound on something that was just said. I think if we try and go to another country to showcase something that we are doing in ours, I think we are actually missing the point. I think the idea is rather to try and learn from what's being done elsewhere and see how we can get more creative, more, I don't know, broaden our minds really from the way we are doing things differently from different countries, and not trying to, I don't know, replicate some kinds of recipe that we would be making in our own little worlds, I think. And I would like to say how impressed I am by the panels you've been gathering. It's been very useful hearing all of you explaining, and I have to say with both that humility, that honesty, and that passion that you're actually gathering, trying, each and every one of you, trying to tackle the subjects that are very difficult, that are actually pushing what we know to the limits and having us change what we believed so far and try and re-interrogate what we've been doing without thinking anymore. And I think it's it makes me very optimistic, I have to say, to hear you, all of you, trying to find the solutions, each and every one. I have to say that exactly like you, I was feeling sometimes like here in France, I'm not doing that, we're not doing that, they're behind, and there maybe we have something that they don't. And I think it's the point of the exercise, right? To what people are talking, to reflect on what we are doing, and pick up what's making us move inside, because that's maybe where someone said something that moved you, is something to be picked up from, and something that you can maybe reflect on, and it's going to be something that you're going to take home again, and it's going to be like a little seed growing to become something else and further on. So I'd like to go back to you, Stephanie, because you've been asking everyone what they would do if they had a magic wand. So what would you do if you had a magic wand? What would your solution be?
That's a good question. Back to me. I will say definitely about training and definitely about promoting. Nowadays we know the techniques, we know the technology. Maybe it's not the same maturity in every country, but we know globally what we have to do. But the main idea is how can we change the game? I know that Alexander is quite maybe around it, but how we can change the game? And I will say that the first step, it's about the need of change and people awareness. And to do so, maybe it will be training, and definitely go back to how can we build some school and
I know that the training and attractiveness, because in every country, I mean, I've been already in Netherlands, in Germany, I go back to Germany, but it's the same matter. We need more skill. We have a lack of a labor of skill and new competence. So I will say definitely I will invest in training and give some attractivity about the construction.
Well, I think we'll leave you the word for the end of this roundtable. Very well. Thank you so much for organizing it, for sharing with us, and well, thank you. It's very insightful. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to conclude, I will ask to all the speakers to go back on the stage, and we'll do like a short picture to have a little souvenir. Thank you all.